The night it all began. The roar of my Harley echoed down the quiet suburban street like a declaration of freedom, and Karen hated every second of it. Her porch light flicked on the instant she heard the engine, that familiar snap of blinds cutting across the dark. She had been waiting, lurking, like a spider fat with venom ready to strike. Her voice ripped through the silence as I rolled into my own driveway. "That motorcycle is a violation," she shrieked, her heavy body shuffling down her steps, face crimson with rage. "This is an HOA community, and that thing doesn't belong here. You will surrender it to me for removal, or I'm calling the cops." Her finger jabbed the air toward my Harley, gleaming under the street lamp like a piece of art carved from steel and history. I wanted to laugh, but fury burned hotter. That bike wasn't just a machine, it was a legacy. My father, a Vietnam vet, left it to me before he passed, a roaring reminder of freedom and sacrifice. And now, Karina's overfed tyrant with a clipboard thought she could claim it like spoils of war? I took a slow step forward, meeting her glare. "Karen," I said evenly, though my pulse hammered in my throat, "this Harley is mine. It's registered, insured, and it's sitting on my property. You don't get to touch it." But her eyes glinted with something ugly, something that smelled of control. She snapped open her phone and with a theatrical huff, dialed 911 right there in front of me. "Yes, officer," she said into the phone, her tone dripping with false innocence. "My neighbor is harboring an illegal motorcycle, and he threatened me when I asked him to comply. I fear for my life. Please hurry." The lie was so bold it stole my breath. Within minutes, the flashing red and blue washed across the cul-de-sac. Neighbors peeked from behind curtains, recording with their phones. 2 patrol cars pulled up, and Karen plastered her face with crocodile tears, pointing at me like I was some hardened criminal. "That's him. He said he'd attack me if I didn't hand over the bike," she wailed. One of the officers turned to me, hand hovering near his holster, and for the first time I felt that dangerous, sinking pit open inside meth weight of false accusation. But fate wasn't on Karen's side that night. From the shadows of the crowd, a voice cut through. "Officers, you'll want to be careful with this one." A tall man stepped forward, suit jacket draped casually, an air of authority radiating off him like a second skin. It was Daniel Pierce, the state attorney himself, who lived just 3 houses down. He had been watching the whole scene unfold from his porch, a glass of bourbon still in his hand. His reputation in our county was ironclad, ruthless against fraud, relentless against abuse of power. And he despised HOA tyrants like Karen. Karen blinked, caught off guard, her fake sobs faltering. "Attorney Pierce," she stammered, "you don't understand. This man is breaking every rule." But Pierce raised his hand, silencing her. "Karen," he said, his voice calm but sharp enough to cut glass. "What you just did is file a false police report. You claimed your neighbor threatened you, yet I witnessed the entire exchange. Not once did he raise his voice. Not once did he approach you with violence. You also misrepresented property rights, demanding seizure of his motorcycle, which, by law, you have no claim to. That is criminal harassment. And if I'm not mistaken, you've done this to others before." Gasps rippled through the crowd. "My neighbor, Mrs. Lopez," shouted from across the street. "She tried to find me for hanging my laundry. Lied about me, too." Another man added. "She said she'd tow my truck if I didn't pay her cash under the table." The street suddenly became a courtroom, and Karen was the defendant with no escape. Her mouth flapped open and closed, but no sound came except a weak protest. Tu was just trying to enforce community standards. Pierce stepped closer, eyes like steel. "No, you were trying to bully. And tonight you dragged the police into it with fabricated claims. That's abuse of emergency services, Karen. I will be filing a report myself, and I'll personally see that this reaches the county prosecutor's desk by morning." The officers exchanged glances, their postures shifting. One leaned toward me and muttered, "Sorry, sir. We had to respond based on the call. Looks like she set us up." For the first time, Karen's composure cracked. Her fists balled at her sides, lips trembling. "You can't do this to me. I run this HOA, I make the rules," she bellowed. But the words sounded pathetic, hollow, even to her. Pierce tilted his head, voice lowering with finality. "You don't make the law, Karen. And tonight, the law is coming for you." That was the moment the crowd erupted, not in violence, but in applause. A slow clap started from somewhere in the back, then another, until the cul-de-sac was alive with the sound of neighbors finally released from her grip. The Harley gleamed in the background, untouched, a silent witness to the collapse of Karen's empire. And yet, the night wasn't over. Just when Karen tried to retreat back to her porch, her phone buzzed. Loud enough for everyone nearby. A voicemail spilled through the speaker, her own voice, recorded, offering special waivers for cash payments to skip HOA citations. Neighbors froze, listening in shock as her corruption was laid bare in her own words. Someone in the crowd muttered, "She's finished." Karen's face drained of all color. Her lies, her intimidation, her empire of fear, it was all unraveling right there under the harsh glow of streetlights. And as she stumbled back, realizing her reign was done, I tightened my grip on the Harley's handlebar, heart pounding not with fear anymore, but with justice. Karen stood frozen as if the ground itself betrayed her, the voicemail still echoing into the night air. Her neighbors, people she had bullied, fined, and humiliated for years, looked at her with something sharper than anger. It was recognition. Recognition that the monster who had controlled their lives with paperwork and intimidation was nothing more than a coward caught in her own web. The police officers didn't move at first, uncertain whether to arrest her on the spot or wait for the report Pierce promised. Karen tried to salvage the moment, raising her hands in mock surrender. "This is a misunderstanding," she croaked, but her voice wavered. "I was only doing my duty as HOA president." That word president landed like a sour note. A young man from the crowd, Tyler, stepped forward, his phone in hand. "Karen, I recorded everything. Your lies to the cops, your threats to seize the Harley, even that voicemail. This isn't your HOA anymore. This is evidence." He turned to Pierce. "Do you want me to email it to your office?" Pierce gave him a nod, his face unreadable, but his presence carrying the weight of inevitability. "Yes, send it tonight. Tomorrow morning. This neighborhood won't live under her shadow any longer." Karen's mask slipped completely. Her eyes darted around like a trapped animal searching for escape. And then, in a fit of desperation, she lunged toward me, her pudgy fingers reaching for the Harley's handlebar as if taking it by force could rewrite reality. But the officers stepped in, one grabbing her wrist, the other pulling her back with practiced calm. She fought them, her screams shredding the night. "You can't take me down. I am the law here." "No. Karen," the officer said firmly, locking cuffs around her wrists. "The law is down at the courthouse, and you're about to meet it." The crowd cheered again, louder this time. A sense of release filled the street, a collective exhale after years of suffocating under her rules. As the patrol car doors slammed, Karen's shrieks turned to muffled rage behind the glass, her face red and wet, pressed against the window like a grotesque mask. But the story didn't end with her arrest. The next morning, news spread like wildfire. The local paper ran the headline, "HOA president arrested for fraud, false reports." Social media lit up with videos of the confrontation, neighbors' testimonies, and screenshots of Karen's incriminating messages. Within hours, Karen's downfall went viral, not just in our county but across the state. People who had never met her sent messages of support to us, praising the community for standing up against tyranny. 2 weeks later, the courthouse was packed. Karen shuffled in, her arrogance drained, her once proud blazers replaced by a wrinkled orange jumpsuit. The prosecutor laid out everything: her abuse of HOA funds, her blackmail schemes, her false emergency calls. One by one, neighbors testified. Mrs. Lopez spoke about the illegal fines. Tyler showed his recordings. "I told the court how she tried to seize my Harley, a piece of family legacy, under the guise of authority she never had. And then came the twist none of us expected." Pierce himself took the stand, not just as a witness, but as a representative of the state. He revealed that Karen had been part of a larger scam working with a shady developer to push out homeowners and buy properties cheap. The Harley incident was just the tip of the iceberg. Karen's reign of terror wasn't about rules or community standards. It was about greed. The courtroom buzzed with outrage. Karen tried to defend herself, but her voice cracked under the weight of evidence. "I was just trying to keep order," she muttered, but even she didn't believe the words anymore. The judge slammed his gavel and announced her sentence. 18 months in county jail, restitution to every neighbor she wronged, and a lifetime ban from serving on any HOA board. The applause that erupted then wasn't disrespectful. It was relief, justice rolling through the room like thunder. Karen slumped into her chair, the fight gone from her, her kingdom of fear reduced to ashes. Weeks passed, and the neighborhood changed. The HOA board was dissolved, replaced by a cooperative council where decisions were made fairly, with actual voices from residents instead of one tyrant dictating from a porch. Families began to paint their houses, hang laundry, park their trucks without fear of fines. Kids played in yards Karen once tried to control. The cul-de-sac finally felt alive again. One Saturday, as the sun set in gold streaks over the horizon, the community gathered in my driveway. Someone had set up tables of food, others brought guitars, and for the first time in years, laughter filled the air without tension. My Harley gleamed in the middle, not as a trophy, but as a reminder of what we had fought for. Pierce raised his glass. To freedom, to community, and to never letting a tyrant rule us again. As I looked around at my neighbors' faces glowing with joy, kids racing bikes down the street, couples holding hands, I felt something I hadn't in years: belonging. Karen thought she could strip me of my father's legacy, but instead, her greed united us all. And maybe that's the greatest revenge. Not the sight of her behind bars, not the headlines or the restitution checks, but the simple truth that we were stronger together once her shadow was gone. She wanted control, but all she left behind was a reminder that no matter how loud, how entitled, or how cruel can crush the spirit of a community that chooses to stand. So here's my question to you. When someone like Karen tries to take what isn't theirs, when they abuse power and lie to get their way, what's the right response? Silent endurance or standing up to expose the truth? I know where I stand. Do you?